Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today the Roosevelt dime has been one of the most familiar coins in American pockets for decades, and while most people see it as just 10 cents, there are some special dates, mint marks and varieties that collectors search for because they can be worth far more than their face value. Today we are focusing on the 1973 Roosevelt dime. At first glance it may seem like just another modern coin from circulation, but there is a lot of history behind it, and some pieces can bring surprising money in the current coin market. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away in 1945. He was honored on the dime because of his connection to the March of Dimes campaign that raised funds to fight polio, a disease Roosevelt himself had battled throughout his life. The design features a left-facing portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse side with the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" along with the date. On the reverse we see a torch in the center symbolizing liberty, with an olive branch on the left for peace and an oak branch on the right for strength and independence. This design has remained largely unchanged from 1946 to the present day, which means the 1973 dime is part of this long tradition. Now when it comes to the 1973 dime, there are three main mint locations we need to talk about. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins without a mint mark. The Denver Mint struck coins with a small d mint mark. And the San Francisco Mint struck proof coins with the S mint mark. In total, hundreds of millions of dimes were struck in 1973, so most of them are quite common. A circulated example from your change is usually only worth its face value of 10 cents. But condition, rarity and special varieties can change the story entirely. For example, a standard 1973 dime from Philadelphia in average circulated condition is just a spender. However, if you find one in extremely high mint state condition with no wear, strong luster and no distracting marks, it can be worth much more. Grading services such as PCGS and NGC certify coins on a scale up to mint state 70. A 1973 dime in MS67 condition or higher is very scarce and can sell for over $100 at auction. Even more impressive are those very top-graded coins where collectors compete for the finest known. Example, the Denver Mint issues from 1973 are similar. A common worn example is not worth more than 10 cents. But a mint state 67 Denver dime is much harder to find than a typical one. Some sales have reached several $100s when the coin is exceptionally well struck and preserved. These coins are the kind of condition rarities that specialists in Roosevelt dimes look for. The San Francisco Mint coins are a little different because they were made only for collectors in special proof sets. The 1973 S-proof dime has a mirror-like finish and was never meant for circulation. Millions were produced, but collectors still pay attention to quality. A deep cameo proof with heavy contrast between frosted devices and mirrored fields is the most desirable. Perfect graded examples can bring prices in the $50 to $100 range, even though the average proof is worth just a few dollars, but the real excitement comes when we talk about rare varieties and errors. With the 1973 dime there are several striking errors that have sold for strong prices. Examples include off-center strikes, double strikes and dimes struck on the wrong planchet. For instance, a 1973 dime struck on a cent planchet or a foreign coin blank can easily sell for several $100s or even over $1,000 depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. Collectors of error coins are always on the hunt for these unusual pieces, and they pay premiums far beyond the typical value. It is also worth noting that the composition of the dime had changed earlier in the 1960s. Up until 1964 the dime was struck in 90% silver. But starting in 1965 and continuing through 1973 the dime was made of a copper-nickel clad composition with no silver content. That means the 1973 dime does not have any melt value in silver. Its worth is tied entirely to its numismatic value, condition and collector demand. So what is the current market for the 1973 dime? In circulated condition most are just 10 cents. A nice uncirculated piece can bring between $1 and $5. High-grade certified examples, especially in mint state 67 or better, can reach from $50 to several hundred. Proof coins from San Francisco range from $2 for average examples to over $100 for the finest deep cameos. And spectacular mint errors can bring hundreds or even thousands depending on rarity and visual appeal. collectors should always check their change closely because while the odds are slim, high-grade coins and rare errors do slip through from time to time. Submitting them to a grading service can help establish value and make them more desirable when it comes time to sell. In summary, the 1973 Roosevelt dime may not look extraordinary at first glance, but it carries historical significance as part of the long-running Roosevelt series. While most examples are worth only face value, certain conditions, varieties and errors can make them worth a lot more money. Always look at the mint mark, always check the quality of the strike, and always be aware of possible errors. The Roosevelt dime is one of the most collected modern coins in the United States, and among its issues the 1994 D dime has drawn a surprising amount of attention from both casual collectors and serious numismatists. In today's video we are going to take a deep dive into the 1994 D Roosevelt dime. We will cover its background and history, its mintage, the reason why some examples can be worth far more than face value, and the current market prices that collectors are paying right now. If you have a 1994 D dime in your pocket change or coin jar, this is the video you need to watch until the end. First, let us talk about the Roosevelt dime itself. The coin was first introduced in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Roosevelt had guided the United States through the Great Depression and most of World War II, and he was deeply admired for his leadership. To honor his legacy, the dime was chosen to carry his portrait because of his association with the March of Dimes campaign, which worked to fight polio, the disease that Roosevelt himself had battled. The design was created by chief engraver John R. Sinek, and it features a left-facing bust of Roosevelt on the obverse along with the word Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and the date of issue. The reverse shows a torch symbolizing liberty flanked by an olive branch of peace and an oak branch of strength and independence, with the words United States of America and one dime encircling the design. This design has remained virtually unchanged for decades, making the Roosevelt dime one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Now moving forward to the year 1994. By that time the Roosevelt dime had been in circulation for nearly 50 years. The 1994 D dime was struck at the Denver Mint, which is indicated by the small d mint mark found just above the date. According to official mint records, more than 1.1 billion Roosevelt dimes were struck in Denver in 1994. That massive number means the coin is not rare in the sense of total mintage. However, as we will see, certain examples can be very desirable. When discussing value, we need to separate circulated coins from uncirculated and special error examples. A typical 1994 D dime found in your pocket change that shows where from circulation is worth only its face value of 10 cents. That is because there are simply too many of them available, and most collectors will want coins in better condition, but the story changes when we look at coins in higher grades. Uncirculated 1994 D dimes that were never released into circulation and have been preserved in mint state condition can bring a premium. Collectors grade coins on the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect flawless coin. In grades from mint state 60 to 63, the 1994 D dime may be worth around $1 to $2. In grades of mint state 65, which is considered gem quality, the price can rise to about $5 to $10. When we get into very high grades such as mint state 67 or higher, the value increases dramatically because very few coins survive in such pristine condition. A certified 1994 D dime graded MS67 by PCGS or NGC can sell for $50 to $100 and sometimes more at auction depending on eye appeal and luster. Now let us talk about proof-like examples and errors. Although most proofs were struck at the San Francisco Mint, occasionally coins from Denver can show proof-like surfaces or unusual striking qualities. These are prized by advanced collectors. Even more exciting are error coins. Some 1994 D dimes have been discovered with off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, or broad strikes. Depending on the severity of the error and the condition of the coin, these pieces can sell for $20 to several $100s. For example, a dramatic off-center 1994 D dime in uncirculated condition could fetch $100 or more. Double die errors with noticeable doubling on the date or lettering can also bring strong premiums. Another aspect to consider is registry set collecting. Many collectors participate in online grading registries where they compete to have the highest graded examples of each date and mint mark. This creates extra demand for coins at the very top of the grading scale. That is why a 1994 D dime in MS68 condition can be worth hundreds of dollars even though the average piece is worth only 10 cents. Now let us look at the current market values as of this year. Based on recent auction records and price guides, circulated 1994 D dimes are worth 10 cents. Mint State 65 examples trade for around $5. Mint State 67 examples can sell for $50 to $100. Mint State 68 examples are extremely scarce and have sold for $400 or more in certified holders. High-grade errors such as dramatic off-centers or double dies can bring between $100 and $500 depending on rarity and demand. So what does this mean for you as a collector or casual coin searcher? The key takeaway is that while most 1994 D Roosevelt dimes are common and worth only face value, there are certain coins that are worth a significant premium. The things to look for are condition, grade, and possible mint errors. Always check your dimes carefully under good lighting, and if you believe you have an especially high-grade coin or an error variety, it may be worth sending to a professional grading service such as PCGS, NGC, or ANAX. The Roosevelt dime series is often overlooked compared to other U.S. coins, but it has a rich history and some hidden gems that make it rewarding to collect. The 1994 D dime is a perfect example. Billions were made, yet the finest known specimens and error varieties can be worth real money today. So next time you come across a 1994 dime in your change, do not just toss it aside. Take a close look, because you never know when you might be holding a small treasure. The Roosevelt dime is one of the most collected and studied coins in United States history, and among the modern coins of the 20th century, the 1994 P Roosevelt dime holds a special place because of its connection to the Philadelphia Mint and the enduring legacy of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, just 1 year after the death of President Roosevelt, who had guided the country through the Great Depression and most of World War II. He was also the leader most associated with the fight against polio, and his image was placed on the dime as a tribute because of his role in founding the March of Dimes organization. By 1994, the Roosevelt dime had already been in circulation for nearly 50 years, and although it was no longer struck in silver since the 1965 Coinage Act, it remained a coin that many Americans use daily. The Philadelphia Mint, which is identified by the P mint mark on the coin, was the main producer of circulation strike dimes. That year millions were minted, but collectors pay attention to strike quality, condition, and errors that make certain examples much more valuable than face value. When you look at the 1994 P Roosevelt dime in its ordinary circulated form, most coins are only worth their face value of 10 cents, but when preserved in high grade, especially in mint state condition, the value can rise sharply. Coin grading companies like PCGS and NGC evaluate the sharpness of the strike, the presence of luster, and the absence of scratches, or where collectors seek coins in grades like MS66, MS67 and higher. An ordinary circulated 1994 P dime is worth just 10 cents, but an uncirculated piece can be worth from $1 to $5 depending on eye appeal. In Mint State 65 the coin is often valued around $10 to $15, and at Mint State 67 the price can jump to $40 or more. The real excitement comes when a coin is graded MS68 with a perfect strike and blazing luster in that condition auction. Records have shown values reaching into the hundreds of dollars. Another factor that makes the 1994 P Roosevelt dime valuable is the presence of mint errors. Some coins are struck off-center, some are struck on defective planchets, and some show doubling in the design. A dramatic error can increase the value many times over, with some rare error examples selling for hundreds of dollars for collectors today. The current market value of a 1994 P Roosevelt dime depends on the condition. In average circulated condition, still worth 10 cents. In higher mint state grades ranging from MS65 to MS67, prices are between $15 and $50. In MS68 the coin can command from $200 to as high as $600 if certified by a major grading service with strong eye appeal. Error coins, as mentioned, can go for anywhere between $50 and over $1,000, depending on rarity and demand. So what should you do if you find a 1994 P Roosevelt dime in your change? First, check the condition. Is it clean, sharp, and nearly flawless with no wear? If so, it might be worth getting it graded. Next, look for unusual features like doubling, missing letters, or an off-center strike. If you suspect an error coin, it is always worth having an expert check it. Collectors and dealers are always interested in high-grade and unusual Roosevelt dimes. The 1994 P Roosevelt dime is not just a small coin, it is a piece of American history bearing the portrait of a president who led the nation through crisis and who fought for health and recovery for all Americans. Even a coin minted in the millions can carry surprising value when preserved carefully or struck with an unusual error. The key is knowledge, condition, and rarity. We are going to dive deep into the history and the value of one of the most collected modern coins in American pocket change, the Roosevelt dime, and more specifically the 1998 D1 dime coin. This coin may look small, but it has a rich history behind it, and it can actually be worth more than face value depending on condition and rarity. So let us start with a bit of history. The dime as a denomination goes all the way back to the Coinage Act of 1792, but the Roosevelt dime design itself began in 1946. Right after the passing of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he was chosen to appear on the dime because of his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, but also because of his support for the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio. The design was created by chief engraver John R. Sinek, and it has remained in use ever since. By 1998, the dime had already been circulating for more than 50 years. The coin struck in Denver that year carries the D mint mark, and it was made from the standard copper nickel-clad composition, which is a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel, giving it that silvery look. Each dime weighs about 2.27 grams and has a diameter of just under 18 millimeters. The edge of the coin is reeded with 118 tiny ridges. The 1998 D dime was produced in large numbers. More than 1.1 billion pieces came out of the Denver Mint, which means it is not a rare coin in the sense of overall supply. Most examples you see in pocket change today are only worth face value. However, collectors know that the value changes when you look at the quality of the strike and the condition of the coin. Circulated 1998 D dimes, the ones you find in everyday change, typically trade for only 10 cents, maybe a little more if they are in lightly circulated shape. However, uncirculated examples that have never been used in commerce can fetch a premium. A nice bright red and white original mint state coin graded MS-60 or higher can sell for $1 or $2. Not bad for a coin that most people overlook. Where the money really starts to rise is at the higher mint state levels. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC in MS-67 or better are scarce, and collectors will pay a lot more for them. At that level you might be looking at $15 to $30, and if the coin is flawless with a grade of MS-68 or higher, it could be worth over $100. In fact, some examples have sold at auction for well over $200 because of the combination of sharp details, perfect luster, and strong eye appeal. Another interesting variety to watch for in 1998 dimes is a full bands designation on the reverse. The torch on the back of the coin has horizontal bands at the top and bottom, and when these bands are struck fully and clearly without any weakness, grading services label them as full torch or full bands. These designations add even more value because they prove the coin was struck with above average detail. A 1998 D dime with full bands at a high mint state grade can sell for several $100s. Now let us talk about errors and varieties. Everyone loves the idea of finding a rare mint error in their pocket change. For the 1998 D dime, there are a few known examples of off-center strikes, double dies, and broad strikes. These types of minting mistakes can increase the value of the coin significantly depending on severity. An off-center dime missing about 20 to 30% of the design might be worth $50 to $100. A double die with visible doubling, especially in the lettering or the date, can bring even more. The market for these coins right now is pretty stable. Roosevelt dimes from the clad era are widely collected, but they are not skyrocketing in price like silver coins. Instead, the value lies in quality coins and rare error examples. A typical 1998 D dime in your pocket is worth 10 cents. A nice uncirculated roll of 50 coins might be worth $20 to $30. A certified high-grade coin might be worth $100 or more, and if you happen to come across an error or full bands example, then you are looking at serious collector interest and much higher value. To sum it up, the 1998 D Roosevelt dime is a common modern coin, but one with hidden potential. Most are worth face value, but gem examples with high grades or special features can be worth much more. So the next time you are sorting through your change, keep your eyes open for sharp strikes, full bands, and unusual mint errors. You never know when a dime could be worth more than $1 or even $100. We are diving deep into the fascinating world of the Roosevelt dime, and in particular we are going to explore the 2015 D Roosevelt 10-cent coin. This coin may look like just another modern dime you see in your pocket change, but as collectors know, every single date and mint mark carries its own story, history, and potential for surprising value. The Roosevelt dime has been a staple of United States coinage since 1946, first issued to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who guided the nation Through the Great Depression and most of World War II after his passing in 1945, the nation wanted to honor him in a permanent way, and since he was closely associated with the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio, it was only fitting that his portrait would appear on the 10-cent piece. The design was created by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the United States Mint at the time, and it has remained virtually unchanged ever since. On the obverse we see the left-facing bust of President Roosevelt along with the inscriptions "Liberty in God We Trust" and the date and mint mark. On the reverse we see a torch representing liberty flanked by an olive branch for peace and an oak branch for strength with the inscriptions "United States of America e pluribus unum" and 1 dime. This powerful yet simple design has endured for nearly 80 years now. Let us turn specifically to the 2015 D Roosevelt dime. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint and carries the small d mint mark just to the right of the date. 2015 was a year of massive production for the United States Mint, with more than 1.4 billion Roosevelt dimes minted at Denver alone. Because of this, most 2015 D dimes will be worth only face value in circulated condition, just 10 cents. However, as collectors know, the true value of a coin lies in its condition, its rarity of varieties, and the demand among collectors. When we look at uncirculated mint state examples of the 2015 D dime, the value starts to climb. Coins graded MS65 can bring around $1 or 2. Coins graded MS67 can sell for $10 to $20, and coins in superb gem condition MS68 or higher are much more desirable. Very few coins achieve that level of preservation, and when they do, collectors are willing to pay hundreds of dollars in auctions. In fact, some examples of the 2015 D dime graded MS68 with full torch designation, also known as full bands, have sold for over $500. The full torch designation is extremely important to collectors. This refers to the reverse design and the sharpness of the strike on the torch bands. If both upper and lower horizontal bands are fully separated and well struck, then the coin earns this designation. It shows that the coin is among the best of the best in strike quality and is far more scarce than ordinary mint state coins. Beyond mint state coins and full torch examples, there are also error coins from 2015 D Roosevelt dimes that can be worth significant amounts of money. Some of the most desirable errors include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, double dies where parts of the lettering or design are doubled, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks. Any of these errors can turn an ordinary dime into a coin worth $50, $100, or even several thousand depending on the rarity and severity of the error. Collectors are always on the lookout for transitional planchet errors as well. These are extremely rare cases where the wrong metal planchet might have been used. Although most modern dimes are made of copper nickel clad over a pure copper core, a few have been discovered struck on older silver planchets or foreign coin blanks. Finding such an error on a 2015 D Roosevelt dime would make it worth an astronomical amount, potentially tens of thousands of dollars. The history of the Roosevelt dime is also fascinating to collectors because, unlike many other U.S. coins, it has remained consistent in its design for decades with only minor adjustments. The Denver Mint has been producing Roosevelt dimes continuously since 1946, and the 2015 D dime is part of that long legacy for many collectors. Building a complete set of Roosevelt dimes from 1946 to present day, the 2015 D is an important modern entry and one that is easily obtained, but in high grade it can be a challenge to find flawless examples. As of today, the current market value of the 2015 D Roosevelt dime depends heavily on condition. In circulated condition, it is worth face value of 10 cents. In uncirculated rolls or mint sets, coins might bring a small premium of about $3 to $5 for a roll or set. Individual mint state coins graded MS65 to MS66 are worth about $2 to $5. Coins in MS67 range are worth $15 to $25, and in MS68 full torch condition you can see auction records reaching between $400 and $600. If an error coin is discovered, such as a dramatic off-center strike or double die, the value could jump even higher to $1,000 or more. So the key takeaway here is never underestimate your pocket change. Yes, billions of 2015 D Roosevelt dimes exist, but if you have the patience to search through rolls, or if you come across coins in perfect condition, you may find one that is worth far more than 10 cents. Collectors and dealers alike are always searching for those pristine high-grade coins that stand out among the masses. The Roosevelt dime continues to be one of the most collected and appreciated coins in American numismatics, and the 2015 D dime is a great example of how even modern coins can hold surprising value. Whether you are a new collector just starting your journey or a seasoned expert chasing down the highest grade examples, this coin has something to offer. We are going to dive deep into the story and the value of a modern yet highly collectible piece, The Roosevelt 2019 P-dime coin, minted in Philadelphia, a coin that many people overlook because of its small face value but one that collectors know can sometimes be worth much more than just 10 cents. When we think about the dime, it has been a daily coin in circulation for decades, but every single year of its production holds its own story. The year 2019 was no different, and for collectors, the 2019 P-dime has become more than just pocket change. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these dimes for general circulation, but the value of this coin is determined not just by its mintage numbers, but by its condition, rarity of certain errors, and the demand in the numismatic market. The Roosevelt dime itself features the classic design by John R. Sinek, with the bust of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse. On the reverse, the design shows the Torch of Liberty flanked by an olive branch on the left, symbolizing peace, and an oak branch on the right, symbolizing strength and independence. These symbols together represent the resilience of the American people, making it one of the most meaningful designs on circulating U.S. coinage. Now, let's talk about the 2019 P. Roosevelt dime. The P mint mark indicates it was minted in Philadelphia, and for collectors, that mint mark is an important identifier. Most coins struck in 2019 P dimes are still in circulation, but the true treasures are the coins that remain in pristine condition or the ones that display rare minting errors. A coin pulled straight from circulation might only be worth 10 cents to $1, but an uncirculated 2019 P dime graded at high levels like MS67 or MS68 can command impressive premiums on the market. Auction results have shown that collectors are willing to pay significant amounts for high-grade 2019 P Roosevelt dimes. For example, coins graded by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC in mint state conditions have fetched values ranging from $50 to several $100s depending on the sharpness of the strike, the luster, and the absence of contact marks. The highest known grades are extremely scarce, making them highly desirable for registry set collectors who want the very best example of every year and mint mark. Beyond condition rarity, the 2019 P dime is also notable for certain error coins that slipped through the minting process. Error coins always attract collectors because they are unique accidents that make a coin one of a kind. Examples of errors on the 2019 P Roosevelt dime can include off-center strikes, double dies, die clashes, and clipped planchets. Depending on the type and severity of the error, these coins can bring in hundreds or even thousands of dollars in the coin market. Imagine finding a dime with a strong double die on the lettering or the date, or one struck off-center showing partial design details. Such coins could turn an ordinary dime into a valuable collectible worth far more than its face value. Collectors also look for proof-like strikes or coins that were specially made for mint sets. In 2019, the U.S. Mint issued uncirculated sets, proof sets, and silver proof sets, all of which contained Roosevelt dimes. The proof coins, with their mirror-like surfaces, are especially desirable. While the standard copper-nickel clad dimes in proof condition might fetch modest premiums, the silver proof dimes, struck in 90% silver, carry both numismatic and intrinsic silver value. Depending on silver market prices, these proof dimes can be worth several dollars each, but in high-graded condition they can climb much higher. When talking about market value, it is important to remember that coins like the 2019 P Roosevelt dime are still considered modern coins, so much of their value depends on collectors' demand and the condition of the coin. Circulated examples found in pocket change might not carry much premium today, but pristine mint state examples, especially those certified at the highest grades, are already selling for strong prices and could increase in the future as more collectors build sets and chase after the finest known coins. Right now, the current market shows that a regular 2019 P dime in circulation is still just worth face value, but mint state graded examples can range from $25 up to $250 depending on grade, and rare error varieties can go well beyond that. Some rare error examples and high mint state coins have even reached values approaching $1,000 when sold at major coin auctions, showing just how much potential a simple dime can hold when it is a rare specimen. So the next time you come across a 2019 P Roosevelt dime, do not just dismiss it as small change. Take a close look at it, check for unusual details, inspect the mint mark, and consider the coin's overall condition. You never know if you might be holding a rare and valuable piece worth far more than 10 cents. Collectors treasure coins like this because they combine modern minting history with the thrill of discovering hidden value in everyday money. The Roosevelt dime continues to stand as a tribute to one of America's most respected presidents, and the 2019 P dime carries on that legacy. From ordinary circulation finds to rare mint state treasures and striking minting errors, this little coin proves once again that every coin has a story, and sometimes that story comes with a surprisingly high price tag. In conclusion, the 2019 P Roosevelt 1 dime coin may seem like just another modern dime, but under the right circumstances it can be worth a lot of money in the current market. Collectors value high-grade examples, error coins, and proof strikes, and with the right coin you could find yourself holding a piece worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So always keep an eye out, because the small dime in your change might just be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered.